All right, and we will move into our last lightning round talk. This session is going to be about how EY Catalyst can help departments enable end-to-end automation designs that drive cost reduction, operational efficiency, and faster execution. Please welcome Fenris Daniel.
Thank you. All right, I'm Fenris Daniel from EY, represent the data and AI practice from EY. Before I go into depth of our presentation here, I'd like to recognize our colleague here, Ajay Gupta, for all the modernization efforts that have been going on in DMV. In the last hour or so, there were at least 2 or 3 presentations that talked about DMV in terms of AI, automation, blockchain, and mobile DLID, right? The reason I bring that to attention is as new technologies come in play, there must be a leader among us to drive that sort of a thing in a government agency, right? That's very important to have the leadership to support that kind of technology embracement, right? We've heard the word AI for the last 2-3 years. Everything is about AI, right? So if you really think about it, the growth of AI, the investments in data center in AI has quadrupled in the last 2 years. There was a research paper that was published by EY Parthenon last week that said that AI is the growth engine for the US GDP. 6% of the GDP growth is currently attributed to AI, right? And then you can go back and look at the growth of our stock market, and it clearly determines that AI has the thing to do. So now comes to the question of leadership and how we include AI in everything that we do, right? Because how do we take AI and include that as part of our modernization effort, or how do we improve our customer service? How do we delight our customer? How do we change the way that we do optimization, right? How do we reimagine operations, right? How do we include AI in these things, right? So we're not doing AI for the sake of AI, because yes, AI can tell that your fuel gauge is empty, right? We have known that. There have been an indicator there that has been telling that in our vehicles for years, right? So that's not the use of AI. And that's why I wanted to bring back to DMV, is if we had seen the transformation in DMV in the last 3-4 years, from where it was to where it is today, they have made actual customer-centric improvements, transformation, that you can see the remarkable outcome if you go to a field office today. And that's kind of where EY wants to take us, and the tool that we want to take us to go to AI, right? So it is like every organization has things to improve. Every organization has pain points. Every organization has a roadmap. Every organization has a list of priorities, right? And the things are that we don't have budget, we don't have staff, right? How do we make sure that among this, how do we accelerate? How do we use things to move forward with that place? And that's where EY's tool, Catalyst, comes into play. In the last 2 years, EY, because of their customer base and the role they play in the market, we've invested more than $1 billion in creating our own AI platform, EY.AI. That's the platform that we've been created to do that, and that's part of the central conversation here for EY Catalyst. Now, getting into what is EY Catalyst? That's just a textbook definition from Cambridge Dictionary, right? But if we remember our school days of chemistry lab, I know some of us don't want to think about it, but the word catalyst, the definition of the word catalyst is that it accelerates. It accelerates an action, a reaction, a process, right? That's the definition of the catalyst. And that's exactly what EY Catalyst is about. It is an accelerator, a generator, based on information from your organization using a framework, using existing domain process depots that we have to generate ideas, generate use cases to think, where do I go first, right? Where do I test the ground on AI that will create some value, some ROI to us? So that's the acceleration piece of Catalyst. So the thing is, everybody has problems, right? Everybody has things to improve upon, right? We have plenty of documentation. we have process statements, we have policy statements, we have constraints, we have opportunities. How do we take to the next step? So that's the three-way piece of Catalyst. So let's get into the details of Catalyst. So the Catalyst has three major components. The software has three major components to it. One is the ingestion piece, the second is the ideation piece, and then it's the inspiration speech, right? So let's get into every details of each one of those things and then see how does it matter, how does it play into together, and how we can present that information so that you have an idea to where do I start for my first use case or my next use case or a roadmap of use cases for my AI implementation within the organization. The first thing is ingestion. Every organization has plenty of documentation, right? All the organizations in state governments, they did not come up in the last 5 years. Of course, there are new departments that are consolidated, but the information, the institutional knowledge, the information that we have has been there for many years, right? We have process document, we have system documentation, we have requirement documentation, we have policy statements, right? We have system operating procedures, and there are desktop manuals, right? So all those things could be considered your input to the process. That is your operational things, right? So all those things, right? You can narrow it down to a domain process, or you can narrow it down to a specific operational process that you want to improve upon, right? So you have diagrams too. And then in the conversation today, it was said, right, if you put a picture in the internet, it could be copied, right? Anything, AI can do anything nowadays, right? So all information could be input to this tool as the starting point of your firm's or organizational information. Next comes, how do we generate the use case out of it? And that is where our domain knowledge, specific domain knowledge, right, or the framework of information, let it be provider enrollment, right? So provider enrollment in a Medicaid setting or a behavioral health setting, right? Or the process of intake, right? Whether it is Department of Corrections or child welfare, the intake mechanism, the invoicing process, right? Inventory auditing process, right? So it could be domain specific or even industry specific, right? So in terms of, every department has this vertical component of accounting, HR, right? And recruitment and so on. So all those things could be in play for this thing. So in this phase of ideation, that's the thing, taking your input that you provided initially as the injection, and then it runs through our platform to come out with a list of use cases that we think could be applicable, right? And it doesn't come out, and it is a list of use cases. So these are the operational metrics. And one of the key features here, you can customize the output that comes out of this based on your standard information, such as this is my ROI, right? This is my ROI. These are my key performance metrics. This is my technology constraint or opportunities for technologies, right? Or you can even customize it, saying that, okay, reduce my backlog from 8 months to 3 months, right? So you can customize the output. So you continue to iterate on it, refine on it, and this is a human process, right? So it's not this AI generating a list of things, reading your input and coming out with an output, but you're part of that, generating that in working with the tool to generate all the list of use cases and ideas. So now, let's say you have a list of use cases, you have refined it, you've come up with it, then comes the next step, which is the visualization. So creating a map of what could the future be, right? So it's a visual map that provides the sequential flow of information that you can double-click on it, get into the things, and say that, okay, the art of the possible in a visual manner. So that's EY Catalyst. I don't have a mic to drop down, otherwise I would have done it, so.